Hey you guys, it is me, Laura from Balanced Vitality. I am a homeschooling mom to 3 kids ages 10, 8, and 3. My goal in sharing videos here with you is that it will give you ideas to help you think out of the box so that you can have a dynamic homeschooling that is changing for your family and your family's needs. But that's tailored to you because homeschooling isn't rigid. Homeschooling flows with the seasons of life, with the ages of our kids, with the interests of our kids, with everything. And I hope as you see our homeschooling constantly transitioning and changing, that you can feel free to make those changes in your homeschool as well. So today, what I'm showing you is how we do kind of our, I don't want to say history as a subject because that's not really it. But how we tie all of our history together. So I really like the idea of doing history chronologically. I like the idea of being able to place things together. But over the years, as I've homeschooled with my kids, even though we've done chronological curricula, we don't actually learn history chronologically. We follow our kids' interests. So sometimes we might be learning about medieval times. Sometimes they might be reading a book on their own that is a historical fiction or not historical fiction, a biography or whatever. And I want to be able to help them tie that into things that we are learning and to see how things kind of fit together. So I was racking my brain trying to figure this out. I'm very familiar with the Book of Centuries by Charlotte Mason. I have one child in particular who doesn't like to draw. We don't want to do a lot of writing, so I have to really be selective about where we put that in our homeschool. And to me, a timeline just was not the right place for that. And timelines are difficult because some time periods, especially if your kids are particularly interested in them, you have a lot of stuff that kind of squeezes in together, and other times you have less stuff. And I wanted all of our homeschool, all the aspects, all the papers that they write and the projects that they do and the books that they read and what we do in our formal schooling. Like, I wanted them to be able to tie all of that together, but I didn't feel like the Book of Centuries really did all of that. But I liked the idea of the way that the Book of Centuries is set up. So this is what I am doing. So we have binders like this for each of the kids, and it's called History of the World. And I'm not done. I still have a lot to add, but we have tabs in for every 100 years, just like, I mean, this idea is very much from the Book of Centuries, where there's a page for every century. And then what I have as well on the tabs, again, not all of them are done. I'm working. This is a work in progress, but we've been using it for a while. So I have on here 19th century, and I have it broken down in a grid with one box for every year in that century. So this is where they put the stuff that is the most important to them. Or maybe there's, let's see if I can find one that has, maybe there's a war or some big event that had a big impact on that century. Or perhaps, see, I should have pulled my other son's because he's got a lot more in his, but that's okay. This will work. But you can show, like, for example, here in the 20th century, if I wanted to, I could mark where World War I happened. I could mark where World War II happened. I could mark on this page where the Great Depression was. We have some birthdays on here, family member birthdays, as well as any other things that are just like, if there's a person that your child is particularly interested in, we'll write all of that on these pages here. And then as we do assignments that are history related, as we read books, either as a family read aloud or whatever, we add them in. And what I do is I just have the kids copy the cover of the book. They could write a full book report, but they'll copy the cover of the book, and then on the back they write a little bit about the book. Can't see that. So they'll write a little bit about the book, and we'll also put on here the date and where it happened so that they know. And then we put these in order. So, like, for example, let me go forward a little bit. We have a little bit more there. So these are all books that we've read. And there's not a lot of writing and stuff in here right now. There will be more over time, but that's the great thing about this. It can change as the kids need to. So this is something that we did as a family read aloud, and it took place from 1812 to 1868. And then the kids listened to all of these books, and they took place from 1866 to 1886. So they're in order. This is about the Great Chicago Fire, and it happened in 1871. And this is a book that we read about the Transcontinental Railroad, and that happened in 1876. And so as the kids go through and we put them in order, they can see how time periods, how things, how people, how everything just crossed over and connected to each other. And I expect that over time, this will become quite full. And the cool thing about it is I don't have to worry about running out of room, because we could just have a part 1 and a part 2 and a part 3, however many we need. And if there's one particular era in history that one of my children studies more, or that we study more in school, or that there's just more stuff to go in here for that, that's fine. But the idea is this is something that can last from, I don't know, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, whenever you want to start doing this, all the way up through high school, theoretically. And then they just have this really big timeline. And as my thinking is that as they add more to it, it'll just be a lot more connections. So one of the things I love about this is that I can do a unit study approach, or more of a all over the place approach to history, if you will. And the kids can still get that chronological connection because they're putting things in their book. Does that make sense? So anyway, that's kind of our take on the Book of Centuries. I mean, that's not really what it is, but that's our take on it. And I would love to know how you guys do timelines in your house, if you do timelines. If you don't do timelines, why not? Would you like to do timelines? Are you perfectly happy not having timelines? If you do you have your own Book of Centuries? I would just love to hear how you guys kind of keep track of those kinds of things in your homeschool. And if you decide to have your homeschool notebook, what would you do differently? What kinds of things would you have your kids put in it? I would love to know. And I hope that you're having a great day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.